It's a common sense recap of the big stories. It's Katz and Cosby on 77 WABC.
And now let's go to John Yoo. Of course, professor of law and great legal scholar, Professor John Yoo.
John Yoo must have seen how excited we are today.
Yeah, John, do you feel our passion? Here it is. This is certainly not a boring Monday before Christmas.
I know. I can't believe you guys aren't taking it easier, but it's the White House is keeping you all busy.
Yeah, it sure is. What is your reaction to the fact that President Biden, commuted the sentence, gave clemency to 37 of the 40 federal death row inmates, and the exceptions, you probably know. One was Dylan Ruth. The other one I know is Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, the Boston Marathon bomber. But the other 37 are pretty despicable, John.
I couldn't agree more. And I think it's within the power of the president to issue these kinds of pardons. But again, it's not the spirit of the pardon power, just like it's not the spirit of the pardon power to pardon your son for obvious federal crimes here, Hunter Biden. It's also not. And I think here the real problem is the blanket nature of it. It's not just that there are individuals who I think clearly deserve the death penalty, both for retribution, but also as a disincentive, a deterrent from people doing terrible things in the future. But it's because he pardoned them all. So you can see that his effort is not to do justice and mercy in any individual case. He's trying to abolish the death penalty. He's trying to reverse the clear will of Congress and that of the American people.
John, it's Richard Weinberg. Good to talk to you and Merry Christmas. Let me say that our mutual friend, Andy McCarthy, had a column on that in the National Review. He specifically raised the issue whether or not this is such an abuse by Biden that it's an impeachable offense because he is going around Congress. In effect, he is making de facto abrogation of the death penalty, the capital punishment statutes. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think that you could get impeachment, but I know Andy's written a book, a really good book about the framers' understanding of impeachment, and they thought impeachment would be used much more broadly than it is now. And you could see the founders wanting to impeach a president who basically pardoned everyone just because he doesn't like a crime that Congress created. Suppose
he doesn't like the death penalty.
Death penalty. But you could, think about it this way. Suppose President Biden pardoned every single person who's been convicted of a drug crime because he thinks drugs should be legalized, even though Congress hasn't legalized it. That's exactly the same thing going here. He can't convince Congress to get rid of the death penalty. His party won't try legislation in Congress to get rid of the death penalty because it's supported by a larger majority of Americans. So instead, he's used the pardon power to do the same thing. And of course, as we know, he waited till his very last days in office when he couldn't pay any kind of political price for it. Also, keep in mind, I was a Senate aide when Senator Biden was in the Senate, and when I was a Judiciary Committee General Counsel when he was on the committee. He was pro-death penalty then. Mm-hmm. He campaigned loudly for the death penalty. And so I think this is just a very cynical turnabout for him because he no longer has to run for office and return to the American people for approval.
Yeah, absolutely. But what's disgraceful, John? And I saw the comment and it was saying he's doing it. He wants to be fair. He feels like it makes the judicial system fair. I mean, how is that fair to the victims' families? And I mean, the fact that you look at the background of these.
We got to find out who pressed those buttons.
Yeah, that's
because
the other question.
I don't think he had a clue what he was signing.
Yeah, let me ask you, John, if it turns out that he didn't even know what he was signing or somebody else signed for him, what's the repercussion? Anything?
Wow.
No one can sign. If actually someone else signed it for him, those are invalid pardons. I mean, he has to sign. But I'm not so sure. I think that he is actually, declined so much. He doesn't know what he's doing. Obviously, that's happening sometimes during his presidency. But I think he actually wanted to do this. I think he actually wants to. You know why? Because I think he has always wanted to out Obama. And so remember, he commuted the sentences of a lot more people just a few weeks ago because he wanted to beat Obama's record. And now he's trying to say, I'm doing this with the death penalty because even Obama wouldn't get rid of the death penalty. So I actually think it's in a way it's worse because I think it's a conscious effort to try to create some kind of bizarre legacy of outdoing Obama at the end of a failed presidency.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And real quick, Judge Weinberg?
I want to ask you this question. All of a sudden, the news articles on TV and radio talking about whether the case against the killer of the healthcare executive, whether an indictment by both the federal government and the state government raises double jeopardy issues. I thought these were two distinct sovereigns, and why is there a double jeopardy issue?
No, this is settled. I mean, this has been settled by the Supreme Court for more than a century and a half. The federal and state governments can prosecute people for the same thing. I ask my progressive friends, if they don't believe in this, then they should not have thought the Rodney King police abuse case should have been tried by the federal government after it was the state jury trial acquitted the police officer there, and the federal government came right in afterwards and prosecuted them for civil rights violations. So this is settled law. It's not. I don't think this is a close one.
All right, Professor John Yoo, thank you so much, and have a beautiful Christmas. We love having you on, Professor.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thanks so much, and happy holidays, guys. It's
you
great
too.
to be with you.